The woman in the coffee shop had my dead sister's face. I dropped my latte. It shattered against the tile floor, splashing hot liquid across my ankles, but I didn't feel it. I couldn't feel anything, except the ice spreading through my chest as I stared at her, at the impossible curve of her jaw, the specific way her left eyebrow arched higher than her right, the birthmark below her ear that looked exactly like a crescent moon. She was laughing at something the barista said, laughing, like she hadn't been dead for 15 years, like I hadn't watched them lower her tiny white coffin into the ground when I was 12 years old, like I hadn't spent every birthday since then lighting a candle and whispering, "Happy birthday, Lily," to an empty room. Have you ever seen someone who shouldn't exist? Someone who died, who you mourned, who you built shrines to in your memory, and then suddenly they're standing right there, ordering a caramel macchiato like it's just another Tuesday? If you have, you'll understand the way the world tilted beneath my feet. Let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced something that made you question your entire reality. She turned. Our eyes met, and I swear to God, for one fraction of a second, I saw recognition flash across her face before she quickly looked away. My name is Maya Chen. I'm 37 years old. I'm a social worker in Portland, Oregon, and until 3 weeks ago, I believed my younger sister Lily drowned in a lake when she was 7 and I was 12. Everything I'm about to tell you sounds insane. I know that. I've questioned my own sanity more times in the past month than I have in my entire life, but I need someone to hear this. I need someone to tell me I'm not crazy, or maybe confirm that I am, because at this point, I honestly don't know anymore. That woman in the coffee shop, she didn't just look like Lily, she was Lily. And by the time I figured out how to move my legs again, she was gone. I didn't sleep that night, or the next, or the one after that. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment over and over. The way she'd tucked her hair behind her ear. Lily always did that. The small scar on her chin that I knew she got from falling off her bike when she was 5. The exact shade of amber in her eyes, like honey held up to sunlight. It couldn't be her. That was the rational thought, the logical thought. People look like other people all the time. Doppelgangers exist. The world has 8 billion people. Of course, some of them share faces. But that recognition, that split second of knowing in her eyes before she turned away, that haunted me. On the 4th day, I called in sick to work and went back to the coffee shop. I sat in the corner for 6 hours, nursing cup after cup of burnt coffee, watching the door. She didn't come. I went back the next day, and the next. On the 7th day, I started to feel foolish, obsessive, like I was losing my grip on something essential. My therapist, Dr. Morrison, would have called it complicated grief or trauma response, or any number of clinical terms that meant, "Maya, you're spiraling." I was about to give up when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Stop looking for me." I stared at the screen. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the phone. "Who is this?" I typed back. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Please, Maya, for both our sakes, stop." My blood turned to ice. I hadn't told anyone about the coffee shop. I hadn't mentioned seeing someone who looked like Lily. I'd kept this madness entirely to myself. "Lily?" I typed. The 3 dots appeared, one more time. Then, "I'm sorry." The number went dead after that. I tried calling, straight to a disconnected message. I tried texting, nothing went through. I even drove to the phone store to see if they could trace it, but they looked at me like I was insane when I tried to explain. Maybe I was insane, but crazy people don't receive text messages from dead sisters telling them to stop looking. That night, I did something I'd avoided for 15 years. I went to my parents' house, to the boxes in the basement, to the photographs and newspaper clippings, and the single teddy bear that still smelled faintly of Lily's strawberry shampoo. I needed to remember. I needed to understand. And I needed to find out if everything I believed about my sister's death was a lie. 15 years earlier. The summer of 2009 was the hottest on record for our small town in Michigan. I remember this because my mother said it constantly, fanning herself on the porch, sighing dramatically about the electricity bill as we ran the AC around the clock. I was 12, Lily was 7, and we were inseparable. That's the thing people forget when they talk about siblings, the way you can love someone so completely that they feel like an extension of yourself. Lily was my shadow, my responsibility, my tiny best friend who thought I hung the moon. "Maya, watch this," she'd say 100 times a day, showing me cartwheels and drawings and the weird way she could wiggle her ears. And I'd watch, every time, because her joy was contagious. Our parents were complicated. Dad worked long hours at the factory. Mom had what she called nervous spells that kept her in bed for days at a time. Looking back with adult eyes, I recognized depression, anxiety, the weight of a life that hadn't turned out as planned. But back then, I just knew that someone had to take care of Lily, and that someone was usually me. The lake was our escape. Crystal Lake, 3 miles from our house, surrounded by pine trees and accessible by a dirt path that only locals knew. We'd bike there almost every day that summer, me with Lily perched on my handlebars, both of us laughing as we bumped over roots and rocks. "I'm gonna learn to swim all the way across this summer," Lily declared one afternoon, standing at the water's edge with her hands on her hips. She was so small, so determined. Her strawberry blonde hair was tangled from the wind, and she had a gap-toothed smile that could charm anyone. "You can barely swim to the buoy," I teased. "Watch me," she stuck out her tongue. "I'm gonna be the best swimmer ever, better than you." I laughed. "Okay, fish girl, prove it." She splashed into the water, and I followed, and we spent hours racing and diving and seeing who could hold their breath longest. I always let her win. I didn't know that 3 weeks later, she would drown in that same lake. Or, at least, that's what everyone told me. The day Lily died, I'm going to keep calling it that for now, even though I'm no longer sure what to call it, started like any other. Mom was having one of her spells. Dad had left for work before dawn. Lily was bouncing around the kitchen, asking if we could go to the lake. "It's too early," I groaned, still half asleep over my cereal. "The water will be cold. Please, please, please." Fine, I could never say no to her. But we have to be back by lunch. We biked to the lake. The morning was already warm, the air thick with the promise of another scorching day. Lily chattered the whole way about some dream she'd had, about the fish she was going to catch, about how she was definitely going to swim across the whole lake today. "You'll see, Maya, you'll see." We got to the water around 9. I remember checking my watch because I wanted to make sure we'd leave on time. I was supposed to help Mrs. Patterson with her garden at 1 o'clock, and she was paying me $10 that I desperately wanted to spend on the new Harry Potter book. Lily ran straight for the water. I spread out our towels, applied sunscreen, settled in with a magazine I'd stolen from Mom's room. This is the part I've replayed a million times, the part where I failed her. I fell asleep. I don't know how long I was out, 20 minutes, an hour? When I woke up, the sun had shifted, and the lake was quiet, too quiet. "Lily?" I sat up, scanning the water. "Lily?" No answer. No splashing, no giggling 7-year-old anywhere in sight. I ran to the water's edge, screaming her name. I swam out toward the buoy, dove under, searched until my lungs burned. Nothing. I ran along the shore, crying, hyperventilating, certain I was going to throw up. Then I saw it. Her sandal. One pink jelly sandal with a butterfly on the strap floating in the shallows near the rocks. I don't remember much after that. I know I ran home. I know I was screaming. I know my mother called 911 and my father left work and half the town showed up to search the lake. They found her body 3 days later. Or what they said was her body. It had been in the water too long. The face was... I wasn't allowed to see it. No one would let me see it. The funeral was closed casket. And I spent the next 15 years believing I killed my sister by falling asleep when I should have been watching her. Present day. I spread everything from the basement boxes across my apartment floor. Newspaper clippings, photographs, my mother's journal from that year, the police report I'd obtained years later when I turned 18. I'd looked at these items before, many times, but always through the lens of grief, through the fog of guilt. This time, I was looking for something different. I was looking for lies. The first crack appeared in the autopsy report. I'd never read it closely before. The clinical language was too painful, too detached for the horror it described. But now, I forced myself to read every word. Female child, approximately 7 years of age. Height, 47 inches. Weight, 52 pounds. Distinguishing marks, none visible due to decomposition. I stopped, read it again. Distinguishing marks, none visible due to decomposition. Lily had a birthmark, the crescent moon below her ear. I'd seen it every day of her life. It was distinctive, unusual, impossible to miss, even on decomposed remains. Why wasn't it mentioned? At this point, I had to make a choice. And I want to know, what would you have done? Would you have confronted your family with impossible questions? Or would you have convinced yourself it was nothing? Type confront or ignore in the comments before you keep listening, because I'm still not sure I made the right call. I called my mother. Mom, I need to ask you something about Lily. Silence on the other end. Then, tightly, what about her? The autopsy report. It says there were no distinguishing marks on the body, but Lily had that birthmark. Maya. Her voice had gone cold, colder than I'd ever heard it. Why are you doing this? Why now? I just need to understand. Your sister drowned. We buried her. I will not discuss this further. Click. My mother had never hung up on me, not once in 37 years. I tried my father next. He didn't answer. I called his cell, his work, left messages everywhere. Nothing. 2 days later, I received a letter. No return address. Postmarked from Portland, my own city. Inside was a single photograph. A woman in her early 20s, standing on a beach somewhere tropical, laughing at the camera. She was beautiful. She looked happy. And she had my sister's face. On the back, written in handwriting I didn't recognize, "Some deaths are kinder than the truth. Let her stay dead." I became obsessed. I know that's not a healthy word, but it's the accurate one. I took a leave of absence from work. I hired a private investigator, a woman named Carmen who chain-smoked and asked no questions, just took my money and promised results. I drove to Michigan, to my parents' house, but my mother wouldn't let me inside. "You need to stop this," she said through the barely cracked door. Her face was gaunt, aged beyond her years. "You're going to destroy everything." "Destroy what? Mom, what did you do?" She closed the door in my face. My father called me that night. He sounded tired, ancient, like the weight of something enormous was crushing him. "Maya, sweetheart, please come home." "That's not..." He stopped, took a breath. "Your mother and I made decisions a long time ago, decisions we thought were right. You have to trust that we were trying to protect you, to protect everyone." "Protect us from what?" "From the truth. Dad, what happened to Lily? What really happened?" A long pause. I could hear him breathing, could almost hear him wrestling with himself. She was never supposed to be in danger, he finally said. It was supposed to save her, save all of us. Dad, I can't. I'm sorry, Maya. I can't. Click. Another hang-up, another dead end. But Carmen, my investigator, came through. I found something, she told me over coffee the next morning. She slid a folder across the table. Your sister, or whoever that woman is, her name is Elena Vance now. She's been living in Portland for the past 2 years, works at a nonprofit downtown, single, no kids, keeps to herself. I stared at the folder like it might explode. There's something else, Carmen said. I dug into your family history. Your parents, they were in serious debt back in 2009. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, medical bills mostly. Your mother was in and out of psychiatric facilities, and your father's insurance wouldn't cover it. I didn't know that. No one did. They hid it well. But here's the thing. 3 months after your sister's death, all those debts were paid off, every single one. And your father quit his factory job and started a consulting business that, as far as I can tell, had exactly one client. Who? Carmen slid another paper across the table. A man named Theodore Vance. The room tilted. Vance? Elena Vance? What is this? I whispered. What the hell is this? Carmen shook her head. That's what you're going to have to find out. But whatever happened to your sister, Maya, I don't think she drowned in that lake. I found Elena, Lily, at her office, a small nonprofit focused on helping at-risk youth. How painfully, perfectly ironic. I sat in my car across the street for 2 hours, watching the building, trying to summon the courage to go inside. Twice I reached for the door handle, twice I pulled back. What do you say to your dead sister? Finally, at 6 o'clock, she walked out, alone. She was wearing jeans and a cardigan, her hair shorter than in the coffee shop, glasses perched on her nose. She looked ordinary, normal, like any other woman leaving work on a Thursday evening. I followed her. She stopped at a grocery store, bought wine, cheese, bread. She walked 2 blocks to a brownstone apartment building and disappeared inside. I stood on the sidewalk, shaking. Then I walked up to the intercom and pressed the button for apartment 4B. Hello? Her voice crackling through the speaker. My sister's voice. It's Maya. Silence. Long, terrible silence. I know who you are, I continued. I know you're Lily. I know about Theodore Vance and the debts and whatever happened in 2009. I'm not leaving until you talk to me. More silence. I was about to press the button again when the door buzzed open. The walk up 4 flights of stairs was the longest of my life. She was waiting in the doorway of 4B. Up close, there was no denying it. This was my sister. Older, yes, 22 now, no longer the 7-year-old I'd lost, but the same eyes, the same jawline, the same crescent moon birthmark below her ear. You shouldn't have come, she said. You shouldn't have died. She flinched, stepped back, let me inside. Her apartment was small but warm, books everywhere, plants on every surface. A life that had been built carefully, quietly, far from anyone who might recognize her. Sit down, she said. I'll make tea. I don't want tea. I want answers. Sit. Down. Something in her voice, an authority I didn't expect, made me obey. She disappeared into the kitchen. I heard water running, a kettle being filled. When she returned, she sat across from me and folded her hands in her lap. What do you remember about that day at the lake? Everything. I remember everything. Then you remember falling asleep? Yes. The word came out strangled. I fell asleep and... I didn't drown, Maya. Her voice was flat, controlled. I was never in the water. When you fell asleep, a man came, a man I'd never seen before. He said he was taking me on a special adventure. He said Mom and Dad said it was okay. My stomach dropped. I was 7. I believed him. The story Lily told me, Elena, I have to remember she's Elena now, was worse than anything I could have imagined. Theodore Vance was a wealthy businessman with no children of his own. He and his wife had tried for years. IVF, surrogacy, adoption, nothing worked. His wife fell into depression. Their marriage was crumbling. Vance had connections, dark connections, people who could make problems disappear, who could create new identities, who could arrange for a 7-year-old girl to vanish from one life and appear in another. Our parents were drowning in debt. Our mother's mental health treatment cost more than our father made in a year. They were going to lose the house, lose everything. Vance made them an offer. They sold me, Elena said. Her voice didn't waver, but her hands were shaking. They sold me to a stranger for enough money to pay off their debts and set themselves up for life. That's not... They wouldn't. They would. They did. She met my eyes. The body in the lake was from a funeral home, a child who had died of natural causes, whose family couldn't afford a burial. Vance arranged everything. The decomposition, the timing, the closed casket funeral. I was going to be sick. I actually stood up and ran to her bathroom, where I heaved into the toilet until there was nothing left. When I came back, Elena hadn't moved. The Vances raised me, she continued. They were good to me, in their way, gave me education, opportunities, love, or what they called love. Theodore died 5 years ago. His wife 2 years later. They left me everything. And you came here? To Portland, where I live? A flash of something, guilt, longing, crossed her face. I found out about you a year ago, did some research. I wanted to see you, just see you. I never meant for you to see me. The coffee shop? A mistake. I should have been more careful. The text message? The photograph? Attempts to make you stop. I should have known you wouldn't. I sat back down. My mind was reeling, struggling to process the enormity of what I'd learned. Our parents, I whispered. They watched me blame myself for 15 years. They let me carry that guilt. They knew the whole time. They convinced themselves it was better this way, that you were better off not knowing, that I was better off with the Vances. And you never tried to contact me, to let me know you were alive? Elena's composure finally cracked. A single tear slid down her cheek. I was 7, Maya. By the time I was old enough to understand what had happened, I'd already become someone else. Elena Vance, beloved daughter. Lily Chen was dead, and bringing her back would destroy everyone, including you. How is this supposed to protect me? Because now you have to choose, she said quietly. Now that you know the truth, you have to decide what to do with it. I spent 3 days in a fog. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't do anything except replay Elena's words and try to make them fit into a version of reality I could accept. Then Carmen called. I found something else, she said. Something that doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense anymore. No, Maya, listen to me. I dug deeper into Theodore Vance's history. The adoption of Elena, it's all documented, legitimate on paper. But here's the thing. Theodore Vance didn't have the kind of connections you'd need to stage a death and traffic a child. He was wealthy, sure, but he was basically just a real estate developer. No criminal ties, no shady history. He couldn't have orchestrated this alone. Then who? Your father, Carmen said. I found records, Maya, encrypted emails from 2009 that I managed to crack. Your father didn't just accept a deal from Vance. Your father approached him. He spent months researching wealthy couples who couldn't have children. He planned the whole thing. The phone slipped from my hand. I picked it up with numb fingers. That's not possible. There's more. The reason they chose Lily, it wasn't random. It wasn't just about money. Then why? Carmen hesitated. Maya, I'm sending you a document. It's a paternity test from 2003. I found it in your father's old files. My phone buzzed. An attachment. I opened it, and my world collapsed for the second time. Lily wasn't my father's daughter. My mother had had an affair. The dates, the names, it was all there in clinical black and white. Lily's biological father was someone else entirely. Someone my father discovered when Lily was 4 years old. He'd spent 3 years planning his revenge. He didn't sell her for money, Carmen said. The money was just a bonus. He sold her because she wasn't his, because every time he looked at her, he saw his wife's betrayal. I thought about my father. The way he'd rarely hugged Lily. The way he'd always seemed slightly cold toward her, slightly removed. I'd assumed it was just his personality, stoic, reserved. I'd never imagined it was something darker. Your mother knows, Carmen continued. She's always known. That's why she protected the secret so fiercely. It wasn't about Lily's safety. It was about her own guilt. If the truth came out, everyone would know she'd driven her husband to do something unforgivable. I hung up without saying goodbye. Then I drove to Michigan. My mother was sitting on the porch when I pulled up, like she'd been waiting for me, like she'd known, somehow, that this was the day it all ended. "You know," she said, as I climbed the steps. Not a question. "Everything." She nodded slowly. Aged decades in the 15 years since Lily's disappearance, aged even more in the weeks since I'd started digging. She looked like a woman who had been carrying a weight so heavy it had crushed everything inside her. "He never forgave me," she whispered. "And I never forgave myself. So you let him sell your daughter?" "I didn't let him. I didn't know until after. And by then, it was too late. The money had been spent, the documents had been filed, and Lily, Elena, she was already across the country with her new family. You could have gone to the police and destroy everything, admit to the world what I'd done, what your father had done, send him to prison." She shook her head. "I convinced myself she was better off. The Vances could give her things we never could: education, stability, a life without a mentally ill mother and a father who couldn't look at her without seeing his own humiliation." "Where is he?" I asked. "Where's Dad?" "Inside. He's not well, Maya. The guilt has been eating at him for years. He wanted to tell you so many times, but I wouldn't let him. I found my father in his study. He looked worse than my mother. Gaunt, hollow-eyed, a shell of the man I remembered. When he saw me, he started to cry. "I'm sorry," he choked out. "I'm so sorry. I thought I was punishing your mother, but I was really punishing an innocent child. And you, God, Maya, I punished you most of all. You let me believe I killed her." "I know. For 15 years. "I know." He buried his face in his hands. "Every day, watching you carry that guilt, it was my punishment too. Knowing what I'd done, knowing I could never take it back." I stood there, looking at this broken man who used to be my father, and I felt something unexpected. Not forgiveness, not understanding, but something close to pity. He'd let jealousy and betrayal twist him into a monster, and in the end, he'd destroyed himself more thoroughly than anyone else. "Elena's alive," I said. "She's okay. She built a life." He looked up. "You found her?" "I found her, and she's better off without you, without either of you." I turned and walked out. 3 months later. Elena and I meet for coffee now, not at that first coffee shop, too many memories there, but at a quiet place downtown where nobody recognizes either of us. We're not sisters, not really. Too much time has passed, too much damage has been done. But we're something. 2 women connected by trauma, trying to build something new from the wreckage of our parents' choices. My father died last month, heart attack. My mother is in a facility now, her mental health finally deteriorating beyond what anyone can manage at home. I don't visit. Maybe that makes me cruel. Maybe it makes me just as broken as they were. But some betrayals are too deep to bridge, some wounds too severe to heal. What I've learned from all of this is that the truth isn't always liberating. Sometimes it's just another kind of prison, a cage of knowledge you can never escape. But I'd rather live in the prison of truth than the lie of freedom. At least now, I know who I am, who my sister is, what my parents did. And every night, before I fall asleep, I think about that 7-year-old girl at the lake, the one who trusted a stranger because he said her parents said it was okay. She's still inside Elena somewhere, still waiting to be saved. I couldn't save her then. I was 12 and asleep when it mattered most. But maybe I can save her now. So that's my story. The truth I lived with for 15 years and the bigger truth I discovered behind it. I want to know, what would you have done? Would you have kept digging, or would you have let the dead stay dead? And here's the question I still can't answer. Could you ever forgive parents who did something like this? I've thought about it every day since I found out, and I still don't know. Drop your answer in the comments, yes or no. And if you've ever discovered a family secret that changed everything, I'd like to hear about it. We all have stories we've never told anyone. Maybe this is the place to finally share them. Because if I've learned anything, it's this. The secrets we bury have a way of finding the light eventually. The only question is how much damage they do on the way up.